recording on the corner.
That's
This
so
week-
Raven. Sorry.
This week on Movie Time Machine, a wealthy New York City investment banker executive, Patrick Bateman, hides his alternate psychopathic ego from his coworkers and friends as he delves deeper into his violent, hedonistic fantasies. This is American Psycho. Welcome to Movie Time Machine, your retro movie review podcast where we take movies from the past and relive them in the present. This week's movie, American Psycho, directed by Mary Herron. It's that name. Mary Herron. Mary Herron. I'm your Time Machine host, Chad, and let me introduce you to my co-host this week. First, he's our living encyclopedia of movie knowledge and NES cart collector. It's James.
American Psycho is a video game I would definitely like to try to play and beat.
It's like that game where you play the guy in the hockey mask. He looks like Jason and you just... Slaughterhouse.
Well, I like to think that also it'd be like a little bit of like Final Fantasy 1. He goes to one of the restaurants and then asks questions. Like you have to answer them correctly.
Right. If you get them all right, you get a map to the location of like the master sword.
Oh, absolutely. The master chainsaw.
Yeah, master chainsaw. He's our haggard-looking, 80s-loving, viral video-watching guru. It's Casey.
You're a killer, Patty.
And it's the sports reporter of the podcast, host of the host of the Midwest Mountain Sports Report podcast. That's Jamie.
Hey, Paul, try getting a reservation at Dorsia now, you bastard.
Do that a little bit off mic because you're really hot on that one.
But it sounded awesome.
Patrick came in hot.
Patrick came. All right. This week's movie is American Psycho. Released on April 14th, 2000 at a budget of $7 million. Box office of $34.3 million. But before we go deeper into the film, I want to do something new this week. I want to do something I want to call question of the week. Maybe I'll call it something different in the future, but just kind of like a little icebreaker to kind of change up the pod. So guys, this week I put it on the chat, and this week's subtopic is when I find it. My phone just froze up.
It's all right, Chad. Okay. Chad, what's the QTOW?
QTOW?
Question of the week.
Question of the week.
Oh, QOTW.
QOTW. Question of the week. Week. All right. So actually today I was just kind of scrolling through my Twitter feed, seeing some things that were trending, and I noticed that there's like a call out there for the release of the David Ayer cut of the first Suicide Squad movie. And everyone's saying about how awesome God, what's his face that played the Joker? He's in this film.
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto is, yeah. Anyway, apparently there's this awesome cut that is unreleased and people are crying for it. So with this and the latest release of the Snyder cut, which just came out was this last spring or summer, is this a new trend that we're going to start seeing in film? So I wanted to kind of have this as our little topic before we get into our movie of the week. Any thoughts on this, guys?
Well, I would like to
throw in a little piece.
Darn it.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it is very curious to me that both films mentioned are DC films that were not necessarily received as well as the Marvel films. I just want to point that out from the start.
Yeah. The Snyder cut was the cut of the Justice League movie, which did not do very well. And they released a cut of it that I guess was fairly different and a little bit longer than the original. Looks like they added a bunch of CGI stuff. I guess some people liked it. I haven't watched it. DC stuff doesn't really entertain me, but um, there's also there rumors of a 4-hour Rise of Skywalker cut as
Oh,
well, the Abrams cut. So I'm
Which is
just
that's interesting when you said that. Like that, I mean, I feel like wouldn't Disney have loved that, or they liked the idea, they couldn't justify doing like a Twilight Part One and Part Two style of their last
right.
movie.
Yeah.
But I think everybody would. I mean, for more money for Disney, I feel like they're all going to be about making sure that this does get released if it's true. I know with the Snyder cut, a lot of reshoots and money went in. Maybe some reshoots. I guess I don't know if reshoots happened with the newest one or if you finished all the footage before Snyder went out. But it's a whole different movie if anybody watched it. From Justice League to the 4 hour Justice League Snyder cut, it's a completely different movie, and I loved it. It didn't feel like 4 hours to me.
Mm,
It's visually really amazing to watch, and it's just interesting to see like Joss Whedon, I believe, was the one who came in, the guy who did Avengers in Buffy and all that, and he finished the footage like to make Justice League happen for the theaters. And it's interesting to see he saw the footage and the vision and goes, no, 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 I like this way better. And it's intriguing to me of like seeing two different directors' visions on one project, um,
yeah.
and just seeing what can happen. I think I said in one of our casts before, I love the idea of even releasing two of the same, like here are two scripts. Let's give it to director A and director B, and just see what they come up with, and release them in similar timing, or let's say 3 months apart from each other, just to see how that looks. I just always
Right.
thought that would be kind of cool.
You know, I just thought about this question, a few hours before we started recording. I threw this out to you guys, but now I think about it, is this just like a relabeling of like I can't talk, the director's cut, or it just makes me think of Blade Runner. All of a sudden, there's like three
well,
different cuts of that, but they're pretty much the same movie. It doesn't really change.
Like
Like,
Blade Runner director's cut, extended director's cut.
right, yeah, there's some things with like one has like the Harrison Ford like kind of narrative voice on it, which like the original didn't.
Hmm.
Um, but here with like the Snyder cut, and then it sounds like with the Ayer cut, like these are making it like almost completely different films. So maybe this
Well,
is a new trend.
I would disagree specifically on Blade Runner because those are different movies. I mean, one cut, you could argue that Deckard's a replicant, and the other cut, you could say pretty definitively that he's not. So I think that's a weird case. I do think it changes the ending, but yeah, I don't know. I know Casey wanted to jump in here, so I'll cede the floor.
I guess Blade Runner kind of ruins my theory because I was going to say the real trend between all of this is people making films from like existing fandom media, right? These are all comics or something like that. They're beloved characters already or a beloved universe. And so the problem is, I think it's exactly what I think Jamie said. It's when you have high expectations for these characters you like, and what comes out kind of sucks, and then people get all pissy about it, and so then they go try to salvage the things that they tried to chop, when in reality they just try to chop it to make this like manufactured Hollywood thing. And all you need to do to feed the fans is just give them more cool shit. And so if you this there I think the only reason people like the Snyder recut, and I guess you can't quote me because I haven't watched it either, I'm not really a fan of that universe as much either, um but like it just gave them more, right? And I think that just made them go, okay, cool, well that's enough, I guess that's enough cool stuff, right? I don't think it made the film that much better. But I think you're going to see that a lot in something like this, where it's adapted from comic books or from characters that people have expectations for. And if those things don't come out perfect, I think Blade Runner might be an example. And I guess there are other like director's cuts. So I suppose there are times where a director just thinks or has a different vision that a studio wasn't going to let them do. But I don't know if you see that a ton anymore. A lot of film now is either indie films where people are doing it on their own dime, or Netflix will just throw money at anyone to make a movie. I don't think they're that like involved in a lot of those creative processes, because I've seen some of those movies, man, they're only okay. um so I don't know. That's
Hmm.
my thoughts. I'm just rambling now.
I think with the like, I think you're dead on with the idea of it's already content. Like we're getting it's movies that are already content from somewhere else, like or already have like a fan base, like a Star Wars or like DC Comics, where people are bought in and are gonna pay to see the slightly different version. Where I could see it going two ways. One is they know they're gonna make an extended cut, like so if for like let's just say like a Batman movie. They do the theatrical release, call it good, and then we just know 6 months after the DVD Blu-ray come out, they're going to release the director's cut version, and they're just going to start doing it that more often, where it's that 3 minutes of footage that we really didn't miss. It's just a couple deleted scenes that were in the special features added back in. Or the what would be cool is if there is truly like an Abrams cut Star Wars, and like it's like Abrams approved, you know what I mean? Like something like where the director backs this cut and it's very clear it's not just a couple minutes of deleted scenes. It's like full-fledged storyline slightly changing or just adding context to quite a few things. But I don't see something like all of a sudden Saving Private Ryan, director's cut. Like I just don't foresee that kind of thing happening. But it seems like even with I remember I think it was an Oliver Stone movie. Was it Alexander, the one with like Colin Farrell or something like that? But like I just remember a couple years ago, all of a sudden the director's cut came out for that, and in my head I was thinking, who was asking for that? No one that I'm aware of, and but that's a movie I haven't seen. Maybe it's really phenomenal, but I just don't remember being critically acclaimed or anything like that. So it's
You
interesting
know,
on what's coming up.
I'm really excited. I heard the director's cut of Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle is coming out later this year. So I'm really
All right.
excited for that.
They go to McDonald's instead.
Whoa, it's a whole different movie. Whole different movie.
The better part is like as a spoof for these director's cuts, you could see those two guys coming back and just green screening it in, and I would still watch it. It'd probably be pretty funny.
Yep, yep.
And Chad's folding laundry.
So I think this happened though with Zack Snyder. This has happened before. Granted, Justice League was a little different. He had to leave that project for pretty tragic reasons. So I think in that case, it actually is kind of cool. He got to come back and finish it. But did anyone see Watchmen? I never saw that, but I knew that there was some controversy because I don't think the film ended the way that the graphic novel did.
God, I've seen Watchmen and I own the graphic novel, and I don't remember how the movie ends.
I think it's yeah, I think it's different. Like I said, haven't seen the movie, but I believe there's a Zack Snyder cut with a different ending. I don't know, I might be wrong.
Hmm. I don't know. Yeah, I remember that controversy of that film ending compared to the graphic novel, but
But Jamie,
sometimes
go
yeah, go
ahead,
ahead,
Chad.
James.
I
Nope.
was just say, Jamie, but you're dead on with the idea that Snyder left under extreme circumstances and tragic circumstances, where it was awesome that Warner Brother like welcomed him back with this idea, or whoever's idea it was. I guess it was a fan pushed idea, where he was able to finish his vision. Because after seeing his vision, I want to see the next movie that might not ever come out. Where I didn't feel that way with Justice League. So that's really cool that he was able to finish what he started with that. Because not everybody else is like that. Everybody else is it's a studio based opinion. Like they saw cuts. Like I think I texted earlier about the Fantastic Four. I remember that director was so mad about how the studio wanted to edit that movie, and they had too much opinion on it that like he just completely like torpedoed that movie like the day before it released on Twitter, and I think in turn sales did bad because there was just all this controversy in the media about it. Sorry, Chad, I took over.
Oh no,
Next.
that's fine. No, great topics, great conversation. Um, what I was gonna say, I just had a thought on the Watchmen movie ending compared to the graphic novel. Like that kind of stuff, I don't mind as much, especially if you know the outcome of come of one. I feel like when you watch like a film version of it, like it's nice to have something that is subverting your expectations in a way, so it's not exactly a one to one, but Yeah, I don't really remember how what the ending was compared to the graphic novel though. I have to go back and watch that. I have to see too if there's that different cut of the film too, because I know that's still on HBO Max, I believe. But
Yeah, Watchmen's on HBO Max. After I just watched the Watchmen TV series a few weeks ago, and um, yeah, it's definitely made me want to revisit the movie. I just haven't yet.
yeah. All right, you guys want to move on to the topic of the week? Tope, 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 tope. I'll take
Let's
the
do
silence
it.
Yes.
as a yes. All right, this week's is American Psycho. Gave you the box office numbers already. Let's do ratings and reviews quick. IMDb has a 7.6 out of 10. Metacritic has a 64% average, and Rotten Tomatoes has a critic of 65% and an 85% audience score. Um, for me, this is the first time I've seen this film. It's kind of
Whoa.
been,
Nice.
yeah. Has
Who
everyone else
else?
seen it
Hold on. Who
before?
else? Yeah, I've seen it a ton.
Okay.
I I'm not convinced I saw it all the way through because I didn't remember this movie at all except for like one scene, which leads me to believe I'd only seen that one scene from clips.
Whoa.
The Susudio scene.
When he had his rain jacket on and he's like
Yep.
walk
Yep.
dancing, yeah, that's the scene. I'm like, okay, I
I've
remember
just
this.
seen
Don't
gifs.
remember anything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty much what it is then.
No, I
yeah.
like Casey. I've seen this a ton.
All right, cool. Yeah, going into this, I think I was reading like the genre or something like that description of the film, and I saw like dark comedy,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
as it like, yeah, it's more dark than comedy on the
Oh yeah.
dark comedy part, but so I didn't really know what to expect, but I was, I kind of just went in with no expectations, and I really like this movie. This is
Awesome.
really good. I like that it kind of has, at least for me anyway, this ending of, of did all this really happen? Was this all kind of in his head? Is this somebody has like some kind of personality disorder? I really like the time period of it. It's like the 80s. Everything is like super yuppie, like
Mm-hmm.
just like total like yuppie douchebag. That kind of stuff always just makes me feel really uncomfortable, and it just really feels like that and like the character of Bateman and everything that goes on. It's just, yeah, it kind of just was oddly a fun movie to watch because it was, yeah, it just kind of blew me away. And it came out in year 2000, I believe. So, and it was I mean, $7 million is kind of a smaller budget, I feel like, for a film, even though it has actually a pretty great cast as well.
Chad, did
Like,
you see any of this storyline? Like, were you predicting certain things, or was it just catching you for a loop most times?
I was just along for the ride. Like I wasn't there was when I'm trying to think when the moment was, I was like, okay, maybe this isn't really happening. Is the part where he kind of starts going nuts and he just starts
The
shooting people.
ATM with the feed me a cat.
Yeah, but is that before or after where he's like having like the gunfight with the cops
That's
and
when
like
it starts.
That's when it starts.
That's like
Like,
the beginning
yeah.
of all
So
of
like
that.
when
It
he
says
shoots the
feed me
cop
a
car and
cat.
like the
And then he
cop car
shoots the lady.
explodes,
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is like this is
That's why it's a dark comedy. That's hilarious.
I mean, I like that part, and then the part before where he goes through like the spinning door and then goes back through,
Yeah.
shoots
yes,
the guard, and then goes back out.
yes.
Yeah, that's where I like. You're right. It's the cat when he has the gun to the cat, and you're like, oh, like first you think he's gonna step on it, and you're like, please no. Like this movie already got ruined from the dog scene, and then all of a sudden he puts the gun to the cat, which is oddly way more funny than stepping on it. But then he shoots the lady, and then I'm like, what is happening? And then when that door scene happened, that's when I was like, okay, this is like a dream. And then everything else fell into place.
So do you I that's the thing is like I don't think that all this is actually really happening. But from what I've read, that wasn't the way like the film was like made, or like any of the intention of the film to be like, or part of the story, I guess. There's one interview I saw with the director where they were trying
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
to
I
that
saw that
point,
one.
but I don't know. I mean,
I think she
Just
straight up said in that interview, she said, I wished it would have been a little more ambiguous. I wish I didn't make it like such a hard line, one way or the other at all.
yeah,
And it's funny that she says that because I still don't like. There's so many what ifs. Like, the dude, who knows, with the way that people mistake one another, and Patrick talking about how him and this dude go to the same barber, they wear the same suits, they have the same glasses, like everyone has the same definition of success. So like mistaking people is common. So how does this dude know that he actually was having dinner with Paul Allen in London? Like maybe
mm,
that didn't happen. And I'm not, and I think that whole point is that dude was to try to you know throw some doubt on him, make you think it's all kind of a dream. But at the same time, who knows? The amount of times that Patrick himself was mistaken as other people throughout the film,
yeah,
not just that like Halverstein guy, but I think he got called at least one or two other people. And then people even gossiped about him to him. That's how flippant everyone is, and they're all the same, and they don't understand who is who anyways. So like, who knows? Maybe he did kill that guy, or he killed someone else and thought that was he
but that
thought that
was
was him,
yeah, thought that was Paul
Paul
Allen.
Allen. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I had
and
that thought too.
even in that scene, that's why this movie is so good. I've seen this movie so many times, but like you still find new stuff every time. So when they're doing the business card thing, and he talks to Paul Allen, and he thinks he's Marcus Halberstrom, and he looks at Halberstrom, and then Halberstrom sits down, and I think it's Van Patten because he throws his business card down on the table. I was like, wait, that's the same actor that they said was Marcus Halberstrom. I think, unless I'm wrong, but I think they did that on
Mm,
purpose just to continue to drive that point home. And they put a fine point on it when Kimball's first interview with Patrick in his office, and he's just staring him in the face, and he's talking about how people just disappear, and I think he means like into this wealthy elite New York City stockbroker life, and murdering people at the same time. They really play around with it, and it's super clever.
right. Like maybe it's what am I trying to say here? Like some sort of like what allegory or to like these just businessmen and like how like they're not actually killing people, but they're just kind of so destructive and like they have no clue about like whatever they're leaving in their wake. They're just so narcissistic. Like they don't really like pick up on anything else around them. They're just kind of bulldozing through everything. But yeah, I don't know. Like there's just little things I picked up. I try to watch it a second time because I knew that there might be some things in there that I would see on a second watch, and I only got like a quarter of the way through, but I did get to the part where um, he takes it's like his one of his peers or whatever takes like his wife out to dinner to like Dorsia in quotes.
It's the girlfriend of the dude that then he like mistakenly hits on and is almost going to choke. That's his
Yes,
girl.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So he says that he made reservations at Dorsia, but when he's there, he lifts up the menu, and on the menu it says
Somewhere
Barcadia.
else. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and she was like on what did they say, lithium or whatever? Like
yeah,
she was just like a floating corpse the most of the movie, it seemed like, where she was just completely out of it. So I don't know. I think it's interesting that all of them could do. I think it's just like you said, like all of them could intertwine between everybody's job. Like you never saw anybody actually working. They just suggest that they work on Wall Street, or even the suggestion that like his dad owns the company or whatever it was. And so he's got a higher up job where he doesn't actually do anything. You don't really meet the boss. It's just all of these douchebags in a room that, yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart. Even the common joke about, they did it a couple times with like, oh, his girlfriend is sleeping with his other friend, but they think we don't know. And I'm sleeping with this dude's wife or fiance.
yeah.
But that dude's really potentially gay, and he's already, and you see him cheating on or going on dates with other women as well. It's like they're all intertwined in this like joke of, oh, like who cares? Like we just won't talk about it.
Right.
And I don't know. So yeah, Casey, I kind of like that idea. I think that you threw out there that like it'd be quite easy to mix any of them up if they weren't actually like if it wasn't their friends, if it was just a bystander trying to be like, oh yeah, it was this guy in a lineup. There'd be no way they could pick him out.
Right. I mean, it's hard to actually imagine that, he had that whole apartment full of dead bodies and then magically they're gone. So I think they're like clearly they're showing that some of what we saw was fiction, but who's to say he didn't stab the homeless person? Who's to say he didn't axe someone he thought was Paul Allen, and then he said
Mhm.
it was dissolving in a bathtub somewhere, so maybe that he didn't bring that necessarily back to that apartment. So he could have actually killed someone and put it in the trunk of that car or whatever. Some of those things could
Where
have
did you get
happened, but
that
like
overnight
clearly
bag?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
is that's the one where that's Paul
Yep.
Allen that's supposed to be in that
Yep.
bag, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I
I know,
believe
and he's
so.
like dragging it and there's like a trail of blood, but the security guard is just like, "Hey, whatever."
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure the security guard, like, I mean, it's a good point. Like, yeah, sure, there's blood everywhere, so there's that, like, where there should be some concern. But maybe to that guy, it's like they kill people every day by stealing their money or whatever that
Right.
looks like. Like, what's one more deadbeat? I saw who he went up with. Who cares?
Yeah, the only person where we get maybe some truth, like maybe this is actually happening, is Jean, right? That's Chloe Sevigny's name, where she is like going through his
Yep.
little black book or whatever. I
Yeah.
think that's the only moment where it's like, oh shit, this might actually be happening, because even Kimball, even Defoe, who's interviewing him, kind of lets him off the hook. He's like, Paul Allen was spotted in London, so
Sure, but
Well,
I
and
think
I thought about that
showing
too.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I thought about that too with when he had the nail gun behind her head, and that not coming to light. I was thinking, I'm like, would that have been his first actual kill if that happened?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even actually consider that. I think I was just gonna say the Notebook was I think just a clue to just say yeah he's definitely insane. The insanity isn't made up. Like he's totally nuts. Um, but I guess I still don't know if there's any hard evidence either way as if to any of those actual murders happened.
Yeah, there's even like the scene where I think it's one of like the first scenes where he's in the restaurant with um I can't remember the woman's name, but he's like drawing the it's right after the
Yeah. Yep.
chainsaw scene.
Yep.
Oh,
He's
Reese
drawing like
Witherspoon.
yes, yeah, it is. Oh yeah, okay, it is Reese Witherspoon that scene. But like yeah, he's drawing like the chainsaw in the back of that woman,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like and then he has those moments too where he's like saying that I have like this urge where I just need to go out and murder somebody, or I can't remember exactly.
Or he said
But
it to the bartender. He behind her back. He was like, "I want to cut your throat and play in your blood." Like just
yeah,
super
Or
gross,
it
he
was
said
the other
this
personal,
to
girl
and
in
she
the
didn't
club when he's
respond.
like, I'm in murders and executions. Oh, you're in
yeah.
mergers and acquisitions?
Right.
Which is super clever line, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, it's great.
um, Also, yeah, he's like wicked good at crossword puzzles.
Bone,
Bone meat.
meat,
Bone meat.
bone.
I wonder if that too is like he actually was writing in the correct answers to that crossword puzzles, but it's kind of like like in the cartoons when somebody is like hungry and they look at the the animal but they turn or the person and they turn into like a turkey,
Oh,
like a
sure.
roasted turkey or something like that, where that's just him. He's just all of a sudden he just starts seeing like bone, meat, flesh.
I mean,
It'd be
based on
interesting.
his planner, I bet he was actually writing bone,
Well,
meat, and
I bet
flesh.
Yeah.
so. It'd be interesting to go back though to see if they did have like the clues beforehand, like where that did line up like that, and like, man, that's weird. Um, and then Chad, you mentioned it earlier as far as like this was filmed in 2000s, but it was like you like this time period. I'm like this was the first time with the music, like the great music behind this soundtrack, where I'm like, man, music is the best part of period pieces like this, where it was made 20 years after the fact, where you could actually really pick and choose what fits the tone the best. So I thought they did a really good job with that.
And it was
Although,
heavily intertwined in the story too. Like he was talking about the actual music,
well,
which actually came out at those times.
and that was the next thing is I'm like, because this is based on a book or a novel, so I'm curious are these the actual songs they're talking about, like, and they were able to get the rights to them, or did they just have to play with it the best they could?
Whatever they can
But
pick up. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, I don't know, it was interesting, and it's just funny how excited he was about, or passionate he was, I should say, about the music and lyrics and all that.
to answer your question, James, I've read the book. Those are the songs and the albums that Bret Easton Ellis,
Hilarious.
That
talks
is,
about in the book.
wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So
Wait, you read the book?
I did. I think I read it in high school or early college, and
Well,
it's a
can you help us with what happened at the end, or does it not talk about it?
it's kind of the same, and it's been so long. I mean, I'd have to reread it, but I would say the movie's pretty true to the book. I would say the book talks a lot more about suits, which is pretty funny. Just like kind of that monologue. It's like 50 pages, I swear to God. And the book is way more brutal. Like the movie's pretty brutal, but the book like really goes there and is really hard to read in some parts.
Like, I'm sorry, I just saw that photo you shared, James.
I had no idea that Christian Bale played Jesus in a movie.
Christian Bale and Pernilla August,
Yeah,
Mary, Mother of Jesus, chosen
yeah.
by God, inspired by faith, compelled by love. With just looking at that and reading those lines, it makes me think like this is a love story between a son and his mother.
Well, I mean, that is the type of movie Christian Bale would do.
Yikes. Anyway,
Did
we
anybody see?
digress.
Did anybody see American Psycho 2, All American Girl with
Yes,
Mila
yes,
Kunis?
yes. It was awful. Don't watch it. It makes you sad.
Mila
How
Kunis
bad it's
and
awful.
William
Absolutely awful.
Shatner as
Straight to DVD
Starkman.
movie.
Yes, it was abysmal. Abysmal.
I like it because
Bad.
they don't have. Well, there is somebody named Bateman in this movie, but I like how everybody has first names. Like it's like Mila Kunis is Rachel Newman, and then after that it's William Shatner, Starkman. This person, Daniels, Brian, Cassandra. This is gonna be
It
garbage.
literally has nothing to do with the first one. They're just trying to be like, oh, it's another psychopath trying to get ahead, but this time it's a prestigious university.
This is
They
gonna be a
have to
classic,
kill
like
to get ahead.
2000 Miramax move.
It's bad. It's bad. It's a lot more like generic bad killer movie. Like she's just straight up a murderer. Like she's Jason Voorhees, as opposed to here he's like just a psychopath living in New York. I think it's a lot more nuanced in the first one because it's like I think the message is trying to send is this dude is just like everyone else, but then he wants to stab you. Like that's how scary the world is sometimes because anyone could just be freaking crazy. I think that's why it's disturbing.
Yeah,
The
Mila
Mila Kunis one
Kunis
was
was
bad.
like so pissed about that movie because she was saying that when they were filming it, she had no idea that it was like going to be titled like like Psycho 2, like American Psycho 2 is like a sequel. It was like sold to her as like
Oh,
a completely different movie.
Oh god,
that's
that'd be
gross.
super frustrating.
Oh.
It might have been better had it not been called that, honestly.
Well, there you go. That's
Might have
probably true.
impacted my viewing.
Um, do you ever feel bad for Christian Bale? Like looking at his physique in this movie, in my head, I'm like, man, that must have been convenient to go from this movie to The Dark Knight, but that didn't happen at all. Like he did The Machinist in the middle of that, where he lost, like 100 pounds, and I'm like, God, that guy's body must just hurt.
That's
Yeah,
insane.
then didn't he put on weight too for I mean this wasn't that long ago, but for Vice
For Vice, yeah,
as
as
well.
Dick
Yeah.
Cheney.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So it got me thinking. I'm like, man, like, do you think Bale really thinks to himself, like, why couldn't any of these projects come in a very specific order where, like, I could have been my thinnest, worked my way up instead of just having to go fluctuate back and forth?
Right.
But man,
That's some dedication to the craft, man, because that's
oh yeah, because then the next one I was thinking of, I was like, there was another one in there where he lost a shit ton of weight, and that was The Fighter when he was like the meth
Oh
addict,
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Damn.
and that was right after Dark Knight. Like, so I was like, oh my god.
Yo, I always say though, if my full time job was to, spend 8 hours a day training and going to the gym, I could get fit too. I just have to work all day.
Yeah, I don't know if I could.
It's not true. I don't think I really would. Undisputed douche.
I was like,
I don't think it's true.
weren't you working from home this past year? You could have been working on the treadmill.
Stop it.
I'm just kidding. No, I
kind
can't
of.
even read on the
should do
treadmill.
that.
I
could
can't
probably
even, I
do
get
it.
motion
I could do
sick
my
on the
job on
treadmill.
a treadmill.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
The walls start moving.
There was a scene in here where he uses the alias of Cliff Huxtable. Did anybody else notice that?
For the first time, I've seen this movie at least half a dozen times, and I laughed out loud. No, he says like Cliff Huxtable is on the phone.
Yeah,
He's
that's what
meeting for lunch. Yeah.
Oh my god, I laughed so hard, and then I was trying to think, like, I was like, is that supposed to be in there like that, or is that a joke? And then I'm like, no, it has to be. He's doing a Cosby bit.
Oh, I missed that. That's hilarious.
And then another thing I was thinking was, is it just me, or is anytime there's like a Christmas scene, like in this movie, they have that like Christmas party they go to, and so I automatically am like, cool, this is now a Christmas
Just
movie. I can watch. I can pick this in my group of like 5 movies that I want to watch on Christmas Day. I'm excited.
awesome. Well,
Um,
this will probably be posting closer to Christmas, so that's awesome. That's perfect timing.
and then Chad, did you get like a Kubrick-esque feel when they were doing like the chainsaw scene when he was like running down the hallway and then following the stairs and that kind of whole, like, if it is a dream sequence, like everything that was happening? Did you get like a Kubrick feel like I did, or I'm
Oh
probably the only
yeah,
one?
totally. Yeah, it was that too. I was like, he's gonna chase her. Oh, I was like, she's actually gonna get away. I just had that moment of, oh my god, he's not gonna drop that chainsaw and like hit her. That was like probably one of the most hilarious like scenes in that movie, or at least kills anyway.
And that was before his Batman training. Like that's
Right.
pretty good. I also want to start using the line in normal day life saying I have to return some videotapes, like when I want to leave
That's
somewhere.
amazing. I love that.
Like just when I get panicked, I think it would be fun.
You know,
Um,
I
that's
was
it.
thinking parts of the movie too, like when he was saying that, I was like thinking like, oh, his is he returning the videotapes that he recorded, like that threesome with the
Oh,
prostitutes with? Like,
he keeps renting porn but returning his
yeah.
tapes. Oh my god. That was like, that's also like, it's so simple, but one of the best parts of the movie is like, he's like, you're like, no, he's not making his own movie, is he? Oh, he totally is. And he's staring at himself in the mirror the whole time,
Yeah,
like
like
flexing. It's
finger guns
awesome.
and
Oh, so
winking at
good.
himself.
Just like, yeah, what a character. Just awesome.
That scene, by the way, being that we're talking about that, which that's the threesome or whatever, the strippers and or the prostitute and the call girl,
The
I'm guessing.
first threesome.
Yeah, the MPAA originally gave this an NC-17 rating because of that, so they had to go back and they cut like 18 seconds out of that entire scene to give it an R rating. I think there was like some words too, like he originally said like "go eat her asshole," and they
Oh,
changed it
not
to
just
"go eat
don't
her
just stare at
ass."
it.
Yeah,
This is
It's
don't
like,
just
just go
look
stare
at
at
it,
her
eat it.
ass.
yeah, yes, that's it. Then I think there was like a fellatio scene too that they had to cut or dial back or something like that. But
Is anyone else
Dang.
as big of a Phil Collins fan as I am?
I can feel it.
Just
Well, I'm waiting for you to break out like, well, see, what you didn't know was about this Phil Collins song that it's one of the best Phil Collins songs ever.
And
no,
do it
I
in the
think
room. Do it in the roomy voice.
so. Actually, Phil Collins was not in the original lineup of Genesis, but no, I think Patrick Bateman actually covered it really well. Like his assessment of Invisible Touch, unfortunately, is like kind of right on. That's one of my favorite albums of all time, and I think he just kind of nails it. Not a huge fan of Susudio though. Like if that's not my favorite Phil Collins.
Mm. I always like the Land of Confusion video where it's like the puppets.
I've never
Have you ever
seen the
seen
video.
that?
No, I haven't
Uh-uh.
seen it.
Oh, it's awesome. It's like Ronald Reagan. So this is like Reagan era, right? So
Yeah.
it's Ronald Reagan and it's I can just remember there's like one scene he's like dressed up like Rambo, like running through like the forest, and it's just all these various scenes. I have to go back and watch it now, but I just remember the ending. He like wakes up, it's like a fever dream. And he's just like wakes up from like a pool of water. And he is like has Nancy next to him, and he reaches out to like I think call the nurse, and he hits a button, and it's like a nuke button. There's like a
Whoa.
big atom bomb, but yeah, it's pretty cool. Check
I
it out.
see. Phil Collins has edge. I refuse to hear otherwise.
Phil Collins. Yeah, so let me see here. What did you? There's just some of the weirdest scenes of like the business card fetish scene.
Oh, I
Like we go
love the
from
business
like people
cards.
talking about people lying about getting like their dinner reservations and then they're kind of fetishizing over like who has the best business card.
Like
See
Christian Bale
this,
starts like sweating over one of them, and it's like, what the hell's happening?
right?
Well, yeah, that was one of the great scenes that showed just how nuts he really was because he was like dying over the tiniest little slight and like getting rage filled. And then at the same time, in the one scene when they were going to dinner, as he's walking in, he said something like, I was almost in tears by the time we arrived because I thought our table was going to be bad or something like that. And then he was relieved when they had a good table. So he's just like, the tiniest little things will just send him over the edge because he's insane.
I also like that I assumed that the business card scene was shot, and they're like, something's missing, and they're like, it's the card holders. They need to sound like it's a sword coming out of a sheath, like,
That's
yep, that
awesome.
completely makes it the scene.
Did you read that somewhere, or did you just pick that up yourself? That's awesome.
It
Love
just
that.
popped in my head. I don't know where I get
That's
these ideas.
awesome. Yeah.
Like a T-shirt that says "loser" or
Right.
things that say. I'm just kidding. No, that just came. I didn't read that anywhere. It just came to me.
It just came to my head. Thought maybe you watched like a YouTube video on that.
No, to be honest, like some movies I want to, but I have more fun waiting to see what Casey dove into.
Yes,
Like,
Stop.
exactly. Stab.
like another one of my original ideas was I was thinking, what if this is a prequel to Batman Begins, but in the idea that maybe his mom just got shot and his dad survived, and so he goes a little bit fucking crazy. He has this nice ass job because his dad's rich, and he becomes the Joker.
Yes, I was gonna say he's Bruce Wayne's twin brother.
Boom,
Done.
Goose Wayne.
Goose. uh,
I kind of love that. I was wondering too, does this so Casey, I have to ask because I know you're not a big horror guy.
Mhm.
What draws you to this film? Is it the satire stuff? Because I think there's a horror movie in here.
Oh yeah, it is a horror movie, and I when I was rewatching it, there were definitely times where I got a feeling I was like, ugh, I don't like this. This is the feeling I don't like. This is why I don't like watching scary movies. Like it gets when Gene is looking through his journal and all that, and it's getting like progressively worse, and she's getting more horrified. Like that gave me a good gut shot of dread. Like that was a good awful scene. And then I do find that the scene with Paul Allen is extremely violent. Like, not just obviously he axed him in the head, and you don't even see it. Like the violence isn't even on screen, but just
mm,
the way he plays that scene and how rage filled he is, and he just says like when he screams out, try getting a reservation at Dorsey or whatever. It's like the most insane, primal, violent thing, then coupled with the most stupid, like, because of a reservation and I'm jealous of you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. That after that, when he sits down to like take a breath, I felt myself also like like releasing my clenched shoulders at that point. Like, holy shit! Like it escalates through he starts playing the music, so the whole scene's getting louder, and he's talking really fast and
hmm
going over his review, and then he just yells, "Hey, Paul!" and he just axes him in the face, and it hits this giant crescendo. So there were definitely, yes, to answer your original question with a long, rambling, sprawling answer, there were absolutely some horror things here. I think what saves it is the dark comedy, like the scene when they're doing coke in the bathroom, and it's just like clear that the bathroom's just there for people to do drugs, and they're yelling at each other like, "Shut the fuck up! I'm trying to do coke here." Like it's just a goofy place where people go and hang out and do like that. That was pretty funny. Um, yeah, there's a lot of funny things, and obviously like when it gets kind of absurd at the end, and he's feed me a stray cat and all those goofy things. Like there's enough to it where this isn't just like scary in the sense of being scary. It's kind of, it's surreal, and it's the way that it's done where you're not really sure any of it is real. Some of it could be, some of it couldn't be. That I just think it's super creative and really well done.
hmm
So I think because of how good it is, I'll look past the horror aspect. There's a few horror movies I'll do that for. Get Out and Jacob's Ladder are two that come to mind that I enjoy that are scary movies.
mm.
So who was his like first kills that we are sure that he killed? Like, did he kill the
Mm-hmm.
homeless guy? Was the first one,
Mm-hmm.
and
I
then
think
the
that's the
next.
point. I think that's the point. Not a single one of them. I think in the I don't know, and maybe Jamie can correct me. I think the premise of the book is that not a single one of them could be verifiable or not, and I think that's what the director was not happy with. Is that she feels like the ending where he says, "I had dinner with Paul Allen," that was too definitive of a that one didn't happen. Whereas everything else, there isn't a didn't it or did it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Hmm.
always directly in the middle, and I think that was what she was a little upset about. Was at the very end that one they said no, 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 he is for sure alive. And none of the other ones you don't know. Like I don't think you can be for sure for any of them.
Like the lady on the street, where I think it was the next day, he's trying to wash like the sheets that are all
Mm-hmm.
red, and they're like, you don't really come back to that conversation at all.
Like cranberry juice.
Yeah,
I like
And
that
maybe
when
something violent happened, but maybe it was like, he just got too rough with a hooker, and then she had to leave and he had to get his stuff cleaned.
Mhm.
But you don't know, like you have no idea what happened.
I had to go to the hospital last time. I can't get in your car.
Mm-hmm. Like that kind of proves that theory. Like he's definitely violent, and he doesn't necessarily kill everybody. So who knows?
Right. You're gonna be Susan.
I
It's so
think
creepy. It's like the
it's
ease and like fearlessness of how he like played that character. Like when he like
Matter of
the Paul,
fact. Everything
yeah,
is a matter of
just kind of
fact.
like it's just business, business as usual. It was so like calculated and um yeah, I just thought those are kind of added to
That's a
that
good
creep
point.
factor.
That was something I wanted to say too. Is I don't know if I've seen a ton of movies with like the main character being a psychopath, like an absolute clinically diagnosable psychopath or like borderline personality disorder, all of it, the whole package, whole kit and caboodle. And I think the way he plays it is so crazy and creepy and perfect. Like even the music scenes when he's talking about how amazing the albums are, it's like he's just kind of reading a review out of a magazine verbatim. Like there is not emotion or feeling or nuance. It's like he's just reciting something that he thinks he's supposed to say.
Yeah.
Just the way he plays such a robotic shell of a human is crazy.
Did you know that the girl in the one of the last scenes before the chainsaw, like on the couch, that other girl is the screenwriter
Oh,
of the
really?
movie? Yeah,
Oh,
The one
that's
he was like
awesome.
drugging.
yeah. He was drugging both of them, but the one that we only saw the one time, yeah,
Well, and she
Hmm.
straight up says, "This tastes funny," and just
yeah.
keeps drinking it.
Christine, you're not drinking your wine.
And I swear Christine was watching him do that too. He didn't turn his back. He was crushing up pills
Yeah.
and dumping him the wine while looking at her.
Yeah. To go back to James, you're like, who was like his first kill
Yeah.
topic as well. I was having moments of like thinking, like, is this movie like in sequential order, or is like some of these scenes like happening, like in like out of sequence? Kind of like, did anyone get that? It's probably not how it was, but I was like getting the vibe that something was a little bit off here, and I was just the way it was cut until I was like didn't know if these are actually happening um in sequence, like out of order, or did anyone else get that vibe?
I didn't.
No,
Nope.
I didn't. And
Hmm.
it felt very linear. Like it does. It to me, it feels like it escalates. Right,
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
bloodlust,
I'm sorry, Chad.
escalates. The
None
the
of us felt
the
that
thing
way.
does.
Okay. All right.
So you're wrong.
Okay.
So take it back and pretend you didn't say it.
Okay. Yep. Uh-huh.
No, hold on.
Cool.
Elaborate. What do you mean? You just think that like
Just thought like
it?
some of like the things were cut. I don't know, like jumped around. Because I was starting to get the vibe that like maybe this wasn't happening. Maybe some of the stuff wasn't happening.
Mhm.
I don't know. My mind
You
starts to
know,
like to wander and think of like what's the twist here kind of thing.
I think the editing and the cutting and the way it's paced, especially as it's getting towards the end, is designed to make you feel that way. I think
Yeah.
it's you're
Kind of
supposed to kind of feel
uneasy
uneasy
and yeah.
because that's kind of how he is floating through his existence. I
Right.
think his mental illness is like so. That's the whole point, right? We don't know what's real, what's fantasy. Where his days and nights end. He's out in the middle of the night, like stabbing people, but then he still wakes up early to exercise and do all his facial routines before getting to the office. Like who knows how much of any of that is real and fake,
Mhm.
at all.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, let's be honest. When you saw that dude's like white apartment and his regimen of facial like goo in the morning, like instantly you're like, within the first 5 minutes of the movie, this man is a psycho.
Yeah. You could do like 1,000 crunches.
We were foreshadowing. He was peeling that mask off.
Yes.
I can do 1,000 now. Did anyone else think about Wolf of Wall Street when they were watching this movie?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't help but think of that movie, and I think obviously Jordan Belfort is a real person. Patrick Bateman is not. But yeah, I couldn't help but think of that movie and just not trusting people who, like, if you think Jordan Belfort's the hero, I don't trust you. Like, you know, Patrick Bateman. Because I don't know if anyone, I, I let's just say I talked to people who saw Wolf of Wall Street and were like, yes, that was awesome. Like everything they were doing and saying, and
Mhm.
I, I, I don't know. It's like, was it though? I don't know. That kind of seemed like the opposite of what Scorsese was trying to say.
I think I pick up the vibe you're laying down with that.
But I'm confused. Like, what do you mean? Like, that was awesome? Like, what? I'm I'm confused. What you're trying to say there?
Oh, I just mean like I had conversations with people who thought that like the outrageous shit that Jordan Belfort did in his lifestyle was,
Like,
like their ideal.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's weird.
Right? Okay,
Do
just
these
making sure
people
that
like to play golf?
Casey.
No comment.
All right, is that it? Does anyone else want to talk topics?
I mean, I have a bit. I did watch a YouTube video. You know me,
Okay,
so
here
I
we go.
found. Well,
Yes.
if you want to end on it, it's actually kind of about the ending, and I thought it was really fascinating, and so I'm kind of gonna rip it off. So maybe I should find the video and just shout it out. It's from a channel called The Take. Video American Psycho ending explained what really happened, and this was just a bit that I thought was clever that they went and found, because it's actually the ending, the kind of last bit after he confesses to the lawyer. And I guess I don't know if this is confirmed or if this is just someone's interpretation, but they're saying it's kind of an homage to a French play from 1944 from Jean-Paul Sartre called No Exit. The premise of the play is that they're three people trapped in a room, which I guess is later revealed to be hell. And in the play at the end, and the end of the play, they are allowed to eventually leave the room, but at that point they're kind of too obsessed with how the other people in the room view them and their thoughts about them that they just don't. They stay in the room for eternity because of that. They have the choice to leave and they don't. And so he literally
Oh
sits down.
yeah.
At one point, he's holding a drink in his hand, and there's a sign above his shoulder on the door that says, "This is not an exit," and that's the name of this play that could be an homage called No Exit. And that's kind of what he's kind of saying at the end is like, maybe I did murder all these people, maybe he didn't. Who knows? It doesn't matter. I am locked in this existence that I despise. The only feelings he said earlier in the movie, he said the only thing he feels are like disgust, and I don't remember the other emotion. He only feels two things:
Hmm.
disgust and something else, but negative. So right, he just lives in this awful existence. He hates everything about it. He even spouts some pretty positive, like socialist and social forward, politically correct things. Right at that one dinner, he's talking about how we have to be better for one another and see people as value, equals, and help one another, all that crap. So it could be even said that he's just part of this, and he really actually is maybe he has good ideals and knows what humanity needs to do, but just sees how awful it is and the
Hmm.
consumeristic lifestyle that he's a part of. So he's part of this same hell, right? He's trapped there. He's allowed to leave, but he's there. He is sitting in that same corner with two other people. Was it two, three? Either way, very similar to the play itself, right? Where these three guys all living in this yuppie existence of this is what we do. We go to the bar, we have dinner, we have to make the appearance that we are these successful people, and that's part of our existence is being these successful people that do these things. Like this is a never ending cycle of dinner reservations and bar dates and lunch meetings and doing nothing in the office and then going out early and just making sure that's the only way to climb the ladder. And so kind of similar to Bateman, right? Living that hell. It's similar to how those in the play that they cared so much about what other people thought, similar to how kind of Bateman, he says earlier in the car, right? Why don't you quit your job? Reese asks him, he just says, because I want to fit in.
Mm, right.
Yeah, and to back that up just a little further, Casey, I love that. I really glad you brought it up because you just brain blasted me back to the book. There's a scene in the book where Timothy Bryce, played by Justin Theroux in the movie, they're at that club and there's that no exit sign and it's above like a tunnel or something in the club. And Bryce at the dinner, like loses it. Like he has a breakdown and just starts running down that tunnel. And I can't remember how the chapter or the scene ends, but I don't know if we see Bryce again in the book after he does that. So I think that was a really cool um, reference that you brought up.
He got out.
Maybe he did.
Mm. Yeah, I don't love this movie. Very twisted.
I'm glad you. Let's do what do people rate it? I guess I got.
I gave this a 4 out of 5 on my letterbox.
Yeah, I do a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Yeah, same for me. It's probably 4.5.
It's been actually a really long time since I'd seen it, so I was glad to have rewatched it. And I will say that I think it holds up. I'm glad that it holds up, and I think the things that don't feel like they hold up actually cement its place as a period piece, right? Like the misogyny that he shows towards Jean, right, telling her what to wear and all that crap. And then at one point, what does he say when when he's talking to the detective about Huey Lewis and the News? And he gets all nervous because that's what he was listening to when he killed Paul Allen, and he's trying to say why he doesn't like it. He says it's a little too black for me, and like it doesn't really hold up now, but like it kind of does in the '90s. Like that's an exact way to shut down that conversation. So I think that actually kind of cements it in how well it lives in that era, because I don't think it's you know what I mean? And like that's how it was. It's not like it was a joke at the expense of someone that doesn't hold up now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, that's pretty damn accurate given what we know looking back in history and in hindsight.
Oh yeah. All right.
So I'm glad everyone liked it. I guess that's what I mean to say by that. Because
I loved it.
I remember enjoying it a lot, and I'm glad I got to rewatch it.
Yeah, it's aged well too for being 21 plus years old. So the only thing is like, Christian Bale looks so young.
Well, I gotta say, it's shot really well too. Like visually,
Yeah.
some of the ways that the tanning bed shot with like going up his body, and they show him at such an awkward angle, and I didn't actually realize it till this time I saw it. He looks so absurd. Well, it's because he's jerking his head back as far as he can to make sure his tan's even. Like, so what an awkward, uncomfortable position just to make an image. Like, it's such a perfect snapshot of his of who he is and who he's trying to be. So just little subtle, it's even subtle things in the way it's shot kind of illustrate and back up the main story. So it's fantastic.
All right, awesome. Before we go, I just wanted to go around the virtual table, just have everyone share one thing they want to plug, that they want to like, or that they like, that they want to share. Anything that's entertainment related, games, TVs, movies, etc.
Well, if you haven't jumped on the app Tubby or Tubi yet, they got Under Siege 2, and I finished half of Universal Soldier, but I watched all of Double Impact. So if you want some great 80s and 90s action films, that's your bread and butter right there.
Double Impact, is that Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Oh, twice the Van Damme. It's good.
Van Damme it.
You know me, I gotta plug YouTube.
Yeah.
I think I've mentioned this channel before, but this the newest video, which I think even came out maybe a month ago, so I'm kind of late to the game. The channel is called Kurzgesagt. I think it's a German word.
Kurzgesagt.
But Kurzgesagt, the newest one is about the immune system, and it's just so darn well done. And it's especially in a time of, COVID and all this, our health and diseases and how immunity works is kind of in the forefront of our minds. So it was actually really obviously done because of all that, but a really well done way to kind of explain how all that works. So I'm going to plug that channel again.
Yeah,
Go
they
check
did
that
a
out.
really cool one too on like climate change and like what you can do, and
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty good.
Oh, and one more shout out since we're talking YouTube. I've mentioned it before. He had an old channel called All Gas No Breaks. He's now Channel 5. It's the kind of guerrilla journalist dude that just kind of goes and does interviews. He has a couple new ones out. It's on YouTube now. He's Channel 5 is the name of his new channel. But he went to the most recent one. He goes to this like rap festival in Utah.
Yeah, it's pretty
Utah.
good. Yeah.
It's super. It's really, that was a really good one.
Fuck
Super kind of
Mormons.
yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's just he's so good at what he does, and I think he's getting goofier with the editing, and he's bringing on other correspondents. They did one. They went to like a
Uhuru.
kind of a racist, the Uhuru one where they sent that other dude. It's fantastic.
So
So
white people
go,
for reparations.
yeah. That one was fantastic. So go, go watch Channel 5. Give him some views.
Jamie, what do you got? Survivor?
Survivor
Baking show?
There's a new season of Survivor coming on Netflix. I'm overjoyed, but no, I'm going to be pretty self-serving here. If you're a sports fan, particularly in the Midwest or the mountain state of Colorado, so think Minnesota and Colorado here, there's a great podcast called the Midwest Mountain Sports Report, where you will find hot and lukewarm takes from yours truly and Chad, and just extend that invitation to James and Casey. You're always welcome whenever you want to come
I'll
on.
be there. I'll be
Yes. Whenever. Shoot the shit about sports. So yes, Midwest Mountain Sports Report.
Yeah, and it's not whenever. It's usually 6:00 on Tuesday morning.
I think one of my favorite things is like when you guys start talking about it in our thread about like sports of something that happened over the weekend, like even whatever you guys were talking about from Sunday's games, I copied it and pasted it in a different thread of friends. And like one of my buddies was like, James, love your take. I'm like, come on. I'm like, all of you have to know that I am no idea what's going on. And so
awesome.
I hope he was joking, but I didn't take it like that. So keep them coming, guys. I appreciate it.
That's awesome. I don't have anything to plug. Something that I'm excited for is the Book of Boba Fett, the trailer that just dropped this last week. And James just ripped the Band-Aid off and posted that in the chat. So
I'm sorry that I ruined that for Jamie. I mean, the Mandalorian's been out for God knows how long.
But the funny thing is that's not even the most spoilish part of season 2.
That's true. That is very true. No, I thought it was funny. Like, and then like Jamie's response, Jamie's response was priceless. Like, wait a minute, how did Boba Fett get out of the digestive system of the Sarlacc after 1,000 years? Right. Like, I was just like, oh my God, I was dying.
The people demand answers.
I'm telling you, it's in Tales from Jabba's Palace.
Wait, hold up. Boba Fett falls into a Sarlacc? Sorry, I wanted to even go further back.
He's like, I'm only on Clone Wars.
Yeah, right.
You guys, I just found out who Luke was. I just watched the first one. That's all. Just stop spoiling this.
Oh, geez. All right. Thank you for listening to this episode of Movie Time Machine. Remember, new episodes drop on Fridays. You can follow us on Twitter. Or how about this? You can message and follow us on Twitter at Movie Machine Pod. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
See ya.